The digital sphere has not only accelerated communication, but also transformed the way societies judge, remember, and react collectively. What once might have taken days, weeks, or even months can now develop into a global dynamic within only a few hours. Individual statements, videos, or accusations spread across platforms within seconds are commented on, reinterpreted, and emotionally amplified. As a result, a form of digital public space emerges that can appear both enlightening, democratizing, and dangerously escalatory at the same time. This becomes particularly visible in controversies surrounding influencers, streamers, politicians, or other public figures. On the one hand, the internet enables a new form of public accountability. People can share experiences, expose abuses of power, and initiate discussions that traditional media might previously have ignored. Victims and marginalized voices gain visibility, communities, and reach. In this sense, the internet may appear as a space of collective awareness in which social issues can no longer be completely silenced or controlled. On the other hand, this same speed creates a significant problem. Internet dynamics can become self-perpetuating. Criticism can rapidly evolve into a global wave of outrage that increasingly detaches itself from verifiable information. Individual clips or statements may be shared millions of times without context, emotionally reframed or interpreted through speculation. Rumors can occupy the same space as confirmed facts. In such situations, the line between legitimate criticism, public accountability, and digital mass escalation begins to blur. From a cyber-psychological perspective, this can partly be explained through mechanisms of social reinforcement. In digital spaces, individuals strongly orient themselves toward the visible reactions of others. Thousands of comments, likes, and outrage-driven posts create the impression of a unified moral majority. This can produce what is often described as the bandwagon effect. People align themselves with a dominant opinion not necessarily through personal reflection, but because the collective momentum already appears overwhelming. In addition, the structure of social media platforms themselves plays a crucial role. Social media systems are not neutral environments. Their algorithms are designed to prioritize content that generates strong engagement. Anger, shock, fear, and moral outrage tend to produce high interaction rates and therefore greater visibility. Consequently, emotionally charged or polarizing content is often amplified more strongly than cautious or nuanced perspectives. Digital public discourse, therefore, does not always function according to truth or careful differentiation, but frequently according to attention and emotional intensity. From a sociological perspective, these processes resemble classical forms of mass psychology, albeit in accelerated and globalized form. Thinkers such as Gustave Le Bon argued that individuals behave differently in crowds than they do alone. Emotions can intensify collectively, inhibitions may weaken, and critical reflection can diminish. Whereas earlier crowds were physically bound to one location, digital crowds now emerge simultaneously across continents, connected through algorithms, trends, and real-time communication. Philosophically, this development raises difficult questions. How should societies deal with guilt, mistakes, and public criticism? Is there still room in digital culture for forgiveness, change, or rehabilitation? Or do online systems create a form of permanent archival memory in which individuals become eternally reduced to specific moments or actions? Some philosophers might argue that modern online culture increasingly simplifies human beings into categories of good and evil, while losing sight of the contradictions and complexities that define real human existence. Within this context, the concept of cancel culture is frequently debated. For some, it represents a necessary form of social accountability and the exposure of harmful behavior. For others, it symbolizes digital overreaction, public humiliation, and moral absolutism. The term itself remains controversial because it can be interpreted either as a mechanism of protection or as a tool of social intimidation, depending on one's perspective. Historically, public shaming and collective outrage are not entirely new phenomena. Long before the internet, societies already experienced rumors, public humiliation, moral panic, and media-driven outrage campaigns. What is new, however, is the speed, scale, permanence, and algorithmic amplification of digital communication. Earlier scandals could remain local or gradually disappear over time. Online controversies, by contrast, are often permanently archived and can resurface at any moment. At the same time, criticism itself should not be delegitimized. Many social advancements became possible only because individuals publicly exposed injustices and challenged existing power structures. The internet can reveal hidden systems of abuse, amplify marginalized voices, and democratize public discourse. The challenge, therefore, is not to eliminate criticism, but to create environments in which nuance, context, and proportionality remain possible. Perhaps this is one of the defining questions of the digital age. How can societies demand accountability without descending into collective escalation? How can public discourse exist without reducing human beings entirely to their worst mistakes? And how can people still distinguish between truth, emotion, rumor, and algorithmic amplification in a world of permanent reaction? Modern digital society may therefore exist in a paradoxical state. Never before have individuals possessed so many opportunities to speak, connect, and spread information. And yet it may never have been so difficult to preserve calmness, context, and thoughtful differentiation.